The Harlem Renaissance, while a wonderful event stuffed to the brim with history, didn't originate with sunshine and rainbows. It occurred after the Great Migration, the movement of 6 million African Americans from the rural South to the urban North and Midwest. 6 million is a lot of people. Imagine 40 times the amount of people that can fit in the stadium, which holds a little over 1,500,000 people. The Great Migration was initially sparked by rampant white supremacy during the revival of the South after the abolishment of slavery, but was also caused by rising land prices and falling crop worth. Once they got to the north, however, African Americans were literally redlined into slums by banks, often under the false pretense of them being poor, but mostly because banks were racist. However, the people living in these enclaves witnessed a rebirth of African American music, writing, and fine arts, at the same time glorious new twists on the original. An especially well-known meaning of the time was music, specifically jazz. Even if the same players played every night, improvised solos made each performance a unique one. Now I kinda wish every performance was like that. Jazz was a popular enough form that it became its own genre, but it didn't just sprout without warning. Jazz has roots in traditional African music and ragtime. Ragtime predating jazz and the Harlem Renaissance by a few decades, it was made popular by a man known as Scott Joplin. Ragtime evolved from the honky-tonk pianist in the South and added a syncopated rhythm. Actually, you never know it until you said it, but honky-tonk is a really fun word to say. Huh. Anyways, New York became an epicenter for ragtime, which was more known for a formal audience, unlike other syncopated rhythms at the time. Actually, since it spread before the invention of recordings, it's somewhat of a marvel that it got so popular in comparison to early jazz. It was mostly sold as sheet music or piano rolls, whereas early jazz exploded as recordings. Fun fact, the suffix time is meant to denote a beat in music, like the waltz time or jig time. The prefix ragged describes its quote-unquote broken beat. That broken beat isn't actually broken, though. As previously mentioned, it's a syncopated rhythm where emphasis occurs on the offbeat, although it's more easily remembered as a short, long, short rhythm. Overall, ragtime is cooler than it seems, but there's one thing that's cooler. That cool thing is Scott Joplin. Joplin was born somewhere in Texarkana, that's right here, I think, in 1687 or 88, and died on April 1st in 1917 after suffering a nervous breakdown over his opera Tremonisha and syphilis. That's rough, buddy. Anyways, when he was younger, he studied piano extensively, where he found a career and fame. Eventually, he moved to St. Louis to be closer to John Stark, another famous composer of the time. Some of his better-known productions are Wall Street Rag, The Cascades, Gladiolus Rag, Peacherine Rag, The Easy Winners, Fig Leaf Rag, Pineapple Rag, Banks Waltz, Kismet Rag, Augustin Club Waltz, Maple Leaf Rag, and The Entertainer. Hold on, I gotta catch my breath. While we're on that topic, here's some examples of the Maple Leaf Rag and The Entertainer. Joplin's also composed operas like A Guest of Honor and Tremonisha, the latter being published at the expense of his life. His most popular rag, the Maple Leaf Rag, jump-started the ragtime fad, although it initially had slow sales. At 25 cents with a 1-cent royalty, it was fairly cheap, but eventually sold over 1 million copies. That's actually a lot of sheet music. Yeesh. Joplin took criticism of his work very seriously, and had even published several books in his lifetime solely about ragtime. Overall, Scott Joplin's a pretty cool and unique dude, and he was one of the defining innovators for the Harlem Renaissance. Ragtime wasn't popular just then either. It made a comeback with The Entertainer in the 1970s, and it's still fairly popular today. As in, there's a fairly big group of people who like ragtime and a lot of ragtime festivals.